Folks, not too long ago, an incredibly attractive and charming young man once said that Italy is the country with the best countryside, the best people, and of course the best food. And I gotta say, I think he had a point there, because ultimately that is of course exactly true. Today we're going to jump into the Victoria 3 open beta with the latest playthrough, where we will be playing the Papal States in the hope of, well, maybe unifying Italy, maybe not unifying Italy, depending on how things go. There's a lot of new content for Italy, I want to check that all out, and there is a lot of new content for Warfare that I also, in fact, want to check out. This may come as a surprise to you. We're going to jump into all of this with a mod that I have specifically prepared for this playthrough. It is Victoria Tweaks mod, but not quite. I made some changes that you will see very quickly, and we're also actually playing with a modification of the map mod. You can see it right here. I really like the way this looks, so we're going to play with this at least for this playthrough. Let me know what you think in the comments, of course. Now, the one thing that I really want to stress here is that this specific change that I have made to the Victoria Tweaks mod is not available on the workshop. I want to point this out because I think this is very important for this playthrough, but again, it's not up there. The change that I made is exactly this. Look at this. This is ridiculous. Russia has 22 troops, 13 troops in Britain, and so on. The reason for this is that in the newest open beta, the AI can actually build artillery, they can build cavalry and so on, but they don't really do it because they already start with an infantry army only. Now, we can't change that, but I can change that they have any army to begin with. I have made it so that every single barracks building that exists in the world is only at level 1, so that the entire AI will be building up their army with a really sweet ratio. Now, obviously, something to mention here is that in the Victoria 3 open beta right now, warfare balancing is all over the place. All that stuff that should limit what you can and what you can't do isn't really there yet, but it doesn't really matter all too much. What we have right here is something that can bring us a lot of action. I've played with this already, and I'm actually really excited to see some of the wild stuff that can go on, because obviously, again, not everything is set into place when it comes to balancing yet. Either way, this means that we will have a dynamic enemy, that we will be dynamic with our army as well, and that should be a lot of fun. But, as always, this is also a roleplay playthrough. We're going to go ahead and we're going to play as the papacy and as whatever may come thereafter. What I mean here is that when we check our politics, you can see Gregorius Capellari. I think he's Pope Pius? Is this Pope Pius the First or something? Or Pope Leo? You tell me. But we have this Pope in charge, and he is large, and he is not interested in Italy, which makes this entire thing quite interesting, because obviously the main draw of playing in Italy is to unify it, and yet we're going to say no to that right away. By the way, if you're Italian, or if you know about Luigi Lambruschini and Carlo Amelini, please tell me about them. I have no idea who they are. What matters much more is we're immediately going to reform... Oh, I like that. No, we're immediately going to reform our government right here. I want a fairly stable government, and I want a government that can pass maybe a couple of things. Most importantly, I like National Guard, I really do. But most importantly, maybe we want to switch towards professional army. National Militia, I think, isn't too bad, but let me just tell you right now that with how warfare balancing works right now, with how long it takes to fill your conscription centers when the war actually starts, I would argue National Militia and Mass Conscription are good towards the tail end of the game. For starters, you probably want to be on Professional Army, and this should be useful for us as well, because let me tell you, I anticipate a lot of war. Now, before we even unpause here, let me just check. Nothing too special about any of these folks. A lot of theocrats, I love to see that. A lot of jingoists as well. Big fan of the moderates otherwise. Now what we're going to do is, I will of course, as always, start building up a bit of a construction economy, but as we are playing the Papal States, as we have traditionalism, which by the way is utterly disgusting, I'm of course going to go ahead and build something up that is largely agrarian. For starters, we need to figure out where to build up, and we don't have coal, which really sucks, but we do at least have iron, so I'm going to place the actual tool workshops and all that stuff right here, together with the actual construction sectors. This always has to be said. Wherever you place a construction sectors should also be, at least at the very start of the game, wherever you actually have the stuff that you need inside of them. Otherwise, you will be paying a hefty price. But once we have done this, I just queued a couple of things right here. I, of course, want to take a look at our army. As I said, everything has been reduced to ashes. We only have a single unit currently present. That is pretty disgusting. We're looking at something that we obviously want to build up. Now, let me tell you how this works in the basic iteration. And I say basic because there are a couple of hurdles here where right now, if I built an army entirely made up of cannon artillery, and trust me, the AI actually sometimes does this, there wouldn't be any penalties. Now, is it realistic to have an army that is just artillery? I don't think I need to answer that. What this means is that we will have certain values that we are self-imposing. I'm not running around with a 100% army just made of artillery, but I will certainly have artillery in my army. Now, the point of infantry is that the infantry units are your defensive units. They're great at defending, not great at killing their enemies, but indeed great at withstanding any onslaught. On the other hand, artillery fundamentally is meant to give you an edge when it comes to advancing, and by God, does it give you an edge. This is the most basic form of artillery. It has 25 offense already, it has a 10% kill rate, and I can tell you right now that the next level of artillery has a 20% kill rate. Yeah, artillery is insane, it is really, really good, and the AI frightens me because now that they actually build with the ratios in mind, they build a lot of artillery. This means, though, that we definitely want to be investing in artillery. And then last but not least, we have the horses, cavalry. They seem, if you look at the base values here, initially very, very strong, and they are, if your enemies don't really have access to artillery, because they have plus 30 offense, they have a decent kill rate, and they have plus 30% battle occupation. But the more technologically advanced you are, the more do these lances, the more do any horse units basically fall off until you discover what a tank is. So that being said, let's make one thing clear. We want horse units, but we don't want most of them. I think we're going to be looking at a ratio of maybe 50% infantry, maybe 25% cannon artillery, and 25% lancers. Honestly, maybe 50 line, maybe 40 cannon, and maybe 10% horses. In the actual gameplay, any army, at least that is what the devs are saying, shouldn't have more than 50% artillery. Honestly, that still sounds like way too much, but let's ignore that for the time being. Here's what we do. Infantry is in a position where it's very, very easy to replace this. Actually, you know what? I'm completely wrong here in what I'm doing. We are looking at a situation where the artillery will be using up the artillery shells in the location that they are in. I know for a fact that we have sulfur right here. So if I produce sulfur there, if I make explosives there, and then indeed produce the actual ammunition there, we can get away with relatively cheap cannon artillery. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to plant line infantry right here in Lazio. Right now we have national militia, we can't really build all that much. And then I'm going to pump this full with artillery, and then a couple of lances like this maybe, and then just some more line infantry. We're going to keep it very basic, a fairly defensive formation here, and this will be our army. We're going to build this after we build up our basic things. And now the two last things before we can just unpause and play as the entity here that we should always have been, which is of course the Kingdom of Heaven, the representative of God. Let's make one thing clear. Obviously, I'm going to tax everybody into, well, okay, maybe not on grain, that sounds like a bad idea, but everybody here shall be taxed into oblivion. The state needs the money, and if the Pope says, give me the tithe, then you better oblige. Now, the most important part here, though, is that I am going for two particular research options here, which are normally not that useful. But since I want to engage with everything related to Italian content, we need nationalism and we need egalitarianism. Why do we need that? Well, nationalism unlocks the reworked Risorgimento. That's what it's called, journal entry. And that one is really, really cool. I like it. I really, really do. Egalitarianism unlocks the Springtime of the Peoples, which is of course great, because Springtime of the Peoples is just very interesting, especially if you pair it up with a national movement. That's literally Italy and Germany in this era. Now, that being said, we're going to queue these up, and after that, I think, are going to primarily stick to technological stuff here for production, because our economy is in shambles. We genuinely really suck. And then I think all we're gonna do past that is, and I'm gonna do that largely off screen, but I basically want to be friends with everybody that is conservative. So that is two Sicilies, that is all these folks right here. I don't really want to talk to Sardinia Piedmont, maybe later if the Pope ever is not around anymore, but for the time being, this is exactly what we do. And after that, I will just make sure to get some, favorable trade routes with France and with Prussia, so that hopefully those two can become our long-term trading partners rather than, for example, Austria, who we will then have to go to war with. So just so you know, I'm gonna go ahead, create some routes with them, hopefully we're gonna net a trade agreement, and that is our short to mid-term, I would say, economic strategy. Oh, and this is something heavy. We immediately have France with Springtime of the Peoples. Liberal agitators in France are demanding more freedoms. Unless stamped out or compromised with, this may lead to a revolution. I'm gonna be honest with you, Springtime of the Peoples in France with the Voice of the People's journal entry for France most of the time means that we're going to be seeing a collapse in king power right here. And surely a second republic. It would be interesting. But honestly, I prefer an Orleans on the throne rather than some type of president who doesn't necessarily need to be our friend. Alright, now let me give you a short explanation of something though. There are some bugs in this open beta, including one where sometimes the AI gets all of its troops stuck, but also one where they weirdly are not doing naval invasions, despite the AI actually being perfectly capable of doing naval invasions. One of the cases where this always, every single time happens is the war between the British and the Great Qing. I will help them here. I have a button that I am currently sitting on top of where I can activate the console that allows me just to tag over to a different country. Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you, we are going for maximum enjoyment because I want to see these systems at work rather than just letting things break. So what we're gonna do, and I'm gonna show this to you right now, we're gonna tag into Britain. There you go, this is what it looks like. And then I'm gonna tell them, hey, I think you will be fine if you just grab this army and invaded Beijing. At least I think they're gonna be fine. And then now that we have set this naval invasion up, they will execute it and they will do just fine. So that is exactly what I'm going to do in terms of fixing the AI sometimes. I hope you understand. I want to mostly play this game working. And oh wow, this law really passed incredibly quickly. I'm not sure that there is anything else that we currently want to change. Obviously, I could do the obvious thing and go with colonial. Come on, we're not doing this, okay? We're not min-maxing here for the purpose of just min-maxing. That is kind of boring. I would like to go with a dedicated police force. Let me just check, actually. You are a Roman Curia member, so he is not actually a member of the proper, reactionaries here, the landowners. I might just shift over to dedicated police force. That's a good question. Alternatively, I could liberalize or go autocracy. It's kinda neat, but honestly, no. For the time being, I'm just gonna go ahead and say I would at the very least like it, so that nobody can rise up against me, right? And National Guard, that is what I'm looking for. And trust me, in just a couple years, I think they've already started, yeah, the British are gonna have a massive, massive army, much like basically everybody else in Europe. They're all gonna build it up and be much stronger than me, so pray for me. And look at that, France is so damn efficient at cleaning out Algeria. They are taking it all down in just the first, 2 years? Yeah, that's pretty crazy. France is a force to be reckoned with here, but I'm gonna be honest with you as well. I think, unless they get cooled and they go like, I don't know, communist or state atheist, I'm pretty sure that we will have a friend in them. And you know what? We also have a friend, oh my god, in my favorite event, Popular Playwright endorses reform. You know what I gotta say. Obviously, I could say, yes, I want more enactment success chance, but no. I am taking the 20 permanent prestige. Thank you so much. Right, and just like clockwork, listen, there's a lot of things happening in the initial years. In the current 1.5 open beta, in almost all countries, you will immediately find the Great Hunger, a bit of a famine kicking off, and hey, it's fine, okay? The hard times. Hunger has become a dangerous problem for our nation, as people from the state of Lazio report that they have absolutely nothing to eat. So this is triggered because we have a very low standard of living. It's pretty rough. And what we can do about it is, well, either say nothing, or we can say an emergency relief focus will be raised in Lazio. And the answer is I will absolutely be doing this. On all of our provinces, I'm going to be doing this, I think. Even if it means foregoing, for example, a couple of taxes here from wine, that should be completely fine. And oh wow, I actually got immediately very, very lucky. The lack of provisions has spread to the neighboring state of Umbria, where the failing of the crops has increased casualties among our people. But because I had placed emergency reliefs everywhere, look at that, our emergency relief measures have toned down the number of victims. Thank God. Now, I think we're going to actually be pretty lucky. Yeah, we're barely in the minus here. That is because the Roman Curia is giving us a very healthy birth rate bonus. That's the only thing keeping us alive, though. Otherwise, we would definitely be shrinking significantly. Oh, and looks like the Great Qing is not having a great time. Well, now this is interesting. After receiving notice of the horrors that the citizens of Umbria have been enduring, solidarity among the nations has been raised, and there are many who want to donate to the cause. I could accept donations from France. I like that a lot. I could accept them from Luca. Luca isn't bad, but it's not important in any measure. We shall rely on internal donations. This is not bad either. No. We're gonna go with France. I want France to be an ally, and maybe more importantly, I need a trade agreement coming in from France. So let's make sure they like us, and let's make sure that we are trading. Oh, and that is nice. Napoleonic warfare has now been unlocked. And the interesting part about this actually is that, oh yeah, this is just a visual bug right here, but basically, this upgrades the standard expected type for your troops, meaning if I build more troops now here, they would be spat out as mobile artillery. I think the troops that we're currently having in the queue will be spat out still as cannon artillery, which is fine. we're just gonna upgrade them. You're gonna see that in work, of course, later on anyway. But anyway, we want to be on mobile artillery. As I said, 20% kill rate. It is insane. And of course, the offensive makes it so that they are now on the offense much, much better than anything going on that your horses could be doing. There are, by the way, different horse types. Just looking at it, I would argue that Lancers are always the best just because of the kill rate. At least right now. I mean, these are, of course, due for balancing, right? It depends on the type of army you have, but right now, in my opinion, there's never any better army than just killing your enemy, so there you go. Ooh, and now that we are no longer in a position where we need to worry about the National Guard or the army, we can take care of our own, at least I hope so. I would love to get off of traditionalism. What gives me the honor here? Oh, I think we rolled a really good... Oh my god, we did roll a really good armed forces member. We're having a huge benefit here, thanks to this guy being a protectionist. This would allow us to get off of mercantilism, but also off of traditionalism. And I gotta tell you, traditionalism is just the worst. So I think, ideally, we want to go after agrarianism here, just because no matter what I'm gonna do, currently we are an extremely agrarian nation. I don't think we're even that interested in anything related to industrialization. I'm sure the Pope thinks that, well, maybe even serfdom isn't all that bad, but you know what, yeah, let's go agrarianism. I do it so rarely these days, so we might as well check it out again. Are there any bonuses that changed? I don't really think so. By the way, these changes that are in here, as I said, aren't currently in the workshop version of this. If you're interested in me uploading this so that you can see the AI play around with some ratios as well, then let me know. I can do that somewhere else. It's not going to be on the workshop, just for the record, because this is just a band-aid fix. Come the full 1.5 and, well, the AI will have ratio armies to begin with, rather than starting just with infantry. Man, I gotta be honest with you, we are getting incredibly luckier with agrarianism, because as you can see, we're looking at a situation where we're just getting the automatic law enactment successfully debated stuff, plus 10%. That's pretty good. And there you go. That was pretty fast. Now we have agrarianism, and I think there is a lot to love about this because, well, it's significantly better than traditionalism. How could it not be, right? It does have a slightly less great benefit. In vanilla, if you change away from traditionalism, you gain 15% in MAPE, so the market access price impact. That's not the case here. That is handled differently. And I gotta tell you, hey, it's completely fine anyway, because I just need anything but traditionalism. The consequences here are that we are, of course, still behind. I mean, our industrialization isn't exactly going swimmingly, and we are still looking down the barrel of a gun when it comes to even supplying our own army. Now, I gotta warn you that I'm not going to use these too extensively, because the AI doesn't do it yet, and it would just be kind of unfair for me to cheat. But if you take a look at this right now, we have access to a couple of benefits when it comes to the mobilization options. If you want a summary, you can see it right here. This is what it would cost us if we actually raise these troops with the current consumption. Obviously, we can change this. Now, we don't have any grocery production, but once we do, I can get a minus 20% morale loss, which sounds really good. The liquor here as well is great. Sadly, we don't have any tobacco plantations that we could currently do. At the same time, you got opium here as well. Obviously, we don't have access to that either. We're looking at a situation basically where I would like to enhance a couple of things so that I stand a chance, so that I can get a bit of an edge against very, very scary Austrians. Let me guess, these are all artillery? Oh, what an insane composition. Technically viable according to the devs laws, but hey, what an insane composition. Anyway, my point is, it's going to be spooky, it's going to be scary, it's going to be horrifying fighting Austria with our current disposition. Which means now that we have agrarianism, I want to basically, whenever I build anything, maybe focus on more agrarian things. We can have silk, we can have more wheat, and we can go from there. That is the current line of thought that I have. We need to become independent, we need to become as strong as possible, and then we're looking towards a good future. But I do really just want to bring up that the local prices are currently ripping us apart. We're at 75% here now. That is primarily down thanks to us having stock exchange and a cargo port. Without a port here, we would be at just 70%. If you still don't know how this works, basically you get a mix of the market price and the local price, and that will then be the actual price that is being used. In this case, 75% of the weight of this combined price is from the market price. It's very basic, you know, accumulating things. Anyway, we're looking at that and we need to enhance that, or we're gonna suffer all the more. We're in a decent spot, but it could be better. Oh, and if you were wondering, by the way, yep, the Ottomans and Egypt are going at it. It looks as though the Ottomans are winning here. Oh yeah, they're definitely pulling through there. My question is just, do you have actual artillery? Lancers, so they are fighting with horses. I'm going to talk a little bit about the actual algorithm on how they select certain units for certain battles a bit later once we get our own battles, but yeah, look at that. All these lancers running around completely destroying the Egyptians. Good for the Ottomans. Oh, and here's an important one. Sardinia Piedmont supports the Italian unification. The government of King Carlo supports that the unification of the Italian peninsula into a single nation should be pushed through. This happens when an Italian nation discovers nationalism. Now, we are very close to discovering it ourselves, and it's going to be really good because, surprise, surprise, our Pope doesn't really care for Italy. I'm going to say, no, I don't want Italy. And the outcome should be pretty fun. At least I hope it's going to be pretty fun. We're going to do that for sure. We just need to get the tech first. You're going to see the journal entry as well. I gotta tell you, I like that journal entry. They did a lot of work on that. A lot of work that also looks very similar, or at least feels very similar, to the upcoming French Commune rework that you're going to take a look at in a bit. Alright, and now right here you can see that we still have cannon artillery. This cannon artillery should actually be mobile artillery. That is the current level that we can indeed maintain. The current level that we know about, if you will. Now, these are old units. We built them before we knew about the current level, and we can now upgrade these very easily, just one click to mobile artillery. But it's not instant. Around 10% of every formation is capable of being upgraded per week. At least that is the formula that I have in my mind. Something like that anyway. We're gonna see this if I unpause. Yep, there you go. 2 artillery are now here that are mobile artillery, and 3 are cannon artillery. This also, of course, drives up the amount of artillery that we actually consume. Because if we take a look at the barracks, remember, I built all the barracks for the artillery right here. Not that we're limited by that actually anymore, because we now have professional armor. We could have many more artillery pieces right here. But fundamentally, we are now going to consume more artillery. You're going to see this in a second. There it is. Because we now have a better type of artillery. That is how upgrading works. It's very straightforward, and I'm very happy that we currently can do it. But yeah, obviously, if you have a bigger army, a bigger nation, it's going to be a bit more costly than what we're doing right now. Folks, and here it is. Whispers of Risorgimento. We discovered nationalism, and as promised, we're now getting the really nice journal entry and a really, really neat set of events. The winds of nationalism have begun to pass through the long-divided states of the Italian peninsula. Papal patriots and romantic scholars alike have begun to call for the unification of a single Italian state. No, senor, I'm not a foreigner, and I'm not papal. I'm an Italian, and an Italian in Italy is never a foreigner. Right, a very, very classic move. We also discovered banking. Good for us. Makes me more money. And you can see I'm not that good on money right now. Anyway, we have 2 choices right here that kind of resemble the choices you have for Springtime of the Peoples. We can say, yes, hell yeah, I love Italy. Let's get Italy going. Or we can say, we will not throw ourselves to the winds for this. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I think in 99% of your playthroughs, you're going to click this button right here. It makes all of the liberal forces very, very happy. It gives them more political strength, and obviously it also actually gives you access to these 2 buttons. Spur pro-unification sentiment and encourage Italian nationalism. This is against any non-Italian ruling Italian land, whereas this is against Italians who rule Italian land but don't want Italy to happen. Now, I'm not gonna do that though, because this is roleplay and I am the Pope, and listen, get that nonsensical Italian idea out of my face. Instead, I will say we will not throw ourselves to the winds for this, and you can see this makes all the conservatives, the more laid-back people, a bit happier. But of course, it puts us into a precarious position, because much as I said that we could, if we were in favor of Italy, stir unrest in a location that isn't in favor of Italy, the AI is now capable of doing the very same thing if they are pro-Italy and we are not, which we aren't. So this is going to be interesting. The way this works is that you basically have this journal entry and it's open and it lets you engage with other nations, but more importantly, it has another function internally speaking. And that is the fact that if we have 25% of Italians angry in our country, we will be overthrown. This happened historically, of course. That was a thing that indeed went down. The Roman Republic is a historical thing that occurred where the Pope was driven out and only got to come back because of the French. And this is also something that happened with the Republic of San Marco in the Italian War of Liberation, I think that is what it's called, in 1848-1849. Will we see exactly this? I can't tell you. Maybe, maybe not. But that is everything that is now encapsulated in this journal entry. I think really good work. I think there could be more to these buttons, but it is what it is. As it is already pretty good. We do now have a pretty okay army. Our budget is not that pretty okay. And yeah, we're going to see where we can go from there. We now also actually, not that it matters for us right now, but we have new interactions where we can send an agitator into a foreign country that has homelands of our culture, and make those people angrier so that maybe a secession starts and we can intervene. There's a lot going on here, and I'm here for it. Oh, and interesting. The armed forces are actually attempting to force my hand. They were the ones that spurred us on towards agrarianism, and now they're saying we need interventionism. A modern Italy. Let me actually check this. Are the armed forces Italians? They might be, honestly. Paolo di Colli di Faisano. Definitely not how you pronounce any of that, but please forgive me, I don't speak Italian. I feel like he's not all too loyal to the Pope. I feel like he's very loyal instead to, well, Italy as a nation. Huh. Well, for the time being, I might actually succumb to this pressure. I mean, why not, right? It doesn't, honestly, there's not that... I kind of feel like at this point, agrarianism is not all that enticing in general, unless you are a fairly big Russia-like nation. If the armed forces push our hands here or force my hands, then so be it. And oh my god, we have a big fat rebellion right here against Austria. Why? Oh my god, the Austrians are genuinely enacting homesteading, and that led to an aristocratic rebellion under Kaiser Albert von Zeringen to rise up against His Majesty Kaiser Ferdinand von Habsburg. My guess is, I think they might actually, yeah, look at that, that's awful. We'll see who wins here. This could be fairly close. This could not be close at all. We shall see that as we go. But what is much, much more important here, okay, they're gathering battalions. I think they're basically our barracks. They are just now putting them into actual armies. But yeah, I don't know whether, you know, it looks pretty close. I don't think, even with this in mind, even if I were pro-Italian, it's basically what I'm trying to say, I don't think I would step into that right now. Oh, and this is a huge one. So, the Great Qing lost the Opium Wars. It is now having a peasant revolt. If this revolt goes through, they have a republic, which means that is 3 points in total. Yeah, 3 points in total for the Great Qing explosion. And I guess the Boxer Rebellion then might be enough. Heavenly Kingdom would actually finish them off. Unless they're able to defeat the Heavenly Kingdom, I guess. We'll see where this goes, but the Great Qing might implode in this playthrough. Alright, and now here we are with a lot of battles. It looks as though the rebellion is losing, except down here in Croatia. Very, very interesting to see. I'm not sure what kind of actual armies they have. Let me take a look at this front line, right? We have this massive army right here, but this is the biggest army, and it belongs to the Loyalists. That's a lot of artillery and a lot of lancers, now clearing the way for the Emperor, I guess. Yeah, it looks as though, so we have one pure infantry army right there. Most of the infantry, if not all of it, actually went to the rebels, which now subsequently are in a position where, obviously, that infantry is being shredded by everything happening with artillery. Yeah, that's going to be unlucky for you. I think the Loyalists have it. But then again, it also depends actually on the mass that they can properly mobilize here, because they have 100 battalions, which are worse, but they can recover faster just because they are 100 battalions, potentially making it so that the Loyalists just run out of manpower. This is going to be a pretty tight question, I think. And oh my, at the same time, the Bosnians are rising up. The Bosnian uprising here is very, very interesting because it means that the Ottomans actually failed the secession Tanzimat, which is pretty significant. In my opinion, it makes it so that they won't finish the Tanzimat no matter what, because that should be a freebie, but self-evidently isn't. Very interesting. They're gonna crush it, I guess, because they have no friends here, but yeah, that's an interesting conundrum nonetheless. And oh my god, we have a new post, Faustino. That is certainly a name. I mean, what do you want me to tell you? He is a member of the civic nobility, so the landowners, and he is a theocrat. That guy, not in favor of Italy. No matter how I look at that, definitely not in favor of Italy. And yep, look at that. The quality of the troops really saved the day for Austria here. But they are just a major power. That's pretty embarrassing, buddy. I'm sure that in due time they're gonna rise up yet again to the great power, but man, yeah, that's embarrassing, pal. Oh my god, how could this happen to me? I am playing the representative on God on Earth, and apparently there's an eruption here in Lazio. And I'm pretty sure there's no active volcanoes. It must be, like, technically down here. Are you getting penalties? Is this just me? Am I getting owned? Right. A violent eruption has shaken the state of Lazio. Fragments of tephra and volcanic ash have destroyed buildings and crops, taking some of the lives of our people. This sucks. I don't really have money, so 20% devastation. I'm gonna be honest with you, that's the wrong choice. Ah, God. Oh, no. Yeah, look at that. It's very, terrible. Oh, thank you for the trade agreement. You know what? Maybe there's something good about this. And oh my god, something extremely cool is happening right here. And I am so hyped, so stoked that it's actually happening. Although we are about 2 years early. But I'm gonna take it if I can, okay? We have the Republic of San Marco. Now, if you're not aware, this is something that happened historically in 1848-49, where in all of Italy, similar to Germany, there was a movement to unify the nation. They had a big rebellion. This is the first war of Italian liberation that didn't work out, and it also coincided with something really, really cool. This happened right here, the 5 days in Milan, where they started to rise up, and then of course the Roman Republic was declared. For the longest time, many Italian national unification personalities, let's call them that, were of the opinion that the Pope should lead the unified Italian nation. And then the Pope said, no, I'm not going to do that. So they threw him out. This was then reset by virtue of the French coming in, technically under Louis Napoleon Bonaparte. He's not here, it's still d'Orléans. But technically under him, they came in and cleaned house. They put back the Papal States, and that is the story as we know it. But right here, we now have an interesting conundrum. I told you about Risorgimento, right? I told you, hey, this is exactly how this works. It's pretty neat. Check that out. But let me tell you, at this event, everything becomes even cooler. I like this journal entry, okay? The Italian War of Independence. Revolutionaries in Milan have declared the formation of a Republic of San Marco, independent from the rule of Austria. They call for aid from all Italian states in their struggle. Mother, my mind is made up. I am going to Venice, with or without your blessing. Good, fine, go. No son of mine would ever waste his life on something so meaningless as a flag. I've already lost brothers and uncles to this sort of useless education of pen lengths. Stay here and be safe. It's anything but useless, Mother. We have a chance to be one Italy again. We could go anywhere, do anything again. We would have something again. We used to be a real country, and we are going to be one again. This is amazing, because what this does now is, I could say, yep, they stand for us and us for them. We joined their Diplo play. We try to defend San Marco. Now, despite Austria being as weak and major powery as it is, I think they're gonna eat us alive. We could also, on the other hand, say we will not shed papal blood for Milan, which gives us a ton of new radicals. Slightly opinion boost with Austria, but let's forget about this. And makes it so. Are we hitting the number? We are hitting the number. Oh my god. The bar is filled. Tricolores over Rome. Inspired by calls for the reunification of Italy, nationalist rebels have seized control of Rome and declared the government of Pope Faustino Pernati de Momo to have fallen. Traitors! Traitors in the midst! Sound the alarm! Call for the guards at once! Do you mean the suited men beside me, signor? I shall hope so, since you were foolish enough to announce your presence. Now I shall make this plain, as your raving ineptitude forced our hand in the first place. A united Italy is rising. It demands a place on the world stage, and it won't be cared for by men of your ill-fitting ilk. Long live Italia. We become a parliamentary republic, census suffrage, we get a lot of loyalty from our pops, we get a permanent boost to political martyr, I guess, for our pope, and he does become an agitator, meaning he is exiled, at least I think so. Sardinia-Piedmont gets the event, Italian nationalists overthrow the papal government, and we actually now become supportive of Risorgimento. This is what I meant. We were a reactionary regime, and all of a sudden, because we were too reactionary, we have become, there it is, the Roman Republic. And being the Roman Republic, we now get access to these buttons as well. Encourage Italian nationalism, which makes people in, well, Istria and South Tyrol angry. They're already rebelling, so we can ignore this. And then right here, spur pro-unification sentiment. This makes it so that people in the territory of a nation that doesn't yet support the Italian cause but is Italian would become more radical. We don't need this right now. The point of this decision, just for the record, is that if we make pops of another Italian nation more radical, they will then trigger the journal entry, and with that make it so that, indeed, we will actually be able to annex them when they become a republic. Okay, a long explanation, but it is insanely cool. I sincerely love it. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to be honest with you here. I will jump in. I will support them. And I might even do it without anything. We are a republic now. This is our national liberation cause. I will simply declare that I am on the side of the Republic of San Marco. I love it. This is really great and really great implementation. Now, what I do want to know before we do anything else here, I don't think so, pal. Before we do anything else here, oh wow, we're gonna have an interesting election result when this is over. Because look at this, we will have a very strong conservative party, but the agrarian party and the left, as well as the free trade party, actually have the majority together. Let's see where we land, but I'm gonna be honest with you, that is an issue for the next episode. We will be fighting the Austrians, and we will probably be losing. And, more importantly, we are now in favor of Italian unification and shall do everything we can to make it happen. Thank you for watching. We're gonna jump... Oh, God. We're gonna jump in more tomorrow, where maybe we will already see China implode because China is now a republic. I'll leave it right here, and I'll see you later, alligator.